I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth, and I brought a couple more marketeers for you guys today. I've got Preston, Lentfer, Judd, Jarzynka, the guys typically behind the camera, behind the scenes, sometimes on the scenes, and on the scene today. Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Wow.
On the scene.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I've ruined it.
I'm a winger. I just kind of wing things, and that's just what come out.
Pretty remarkable.
I liked it a lot. Well, it seems to be a fitting topic for Preston and I here today. So
Yeah, and a fitting topic because it's that time of year. Now, admittedly, we all know this time of year. Hunting season is here. It's not even around the corner, like we're at the corner. And it's hard sometimes to really just dive in and feel like, oh yeah, it's here, because there's still mosquitoes alive and well. And then once they go back to hell where they came from, then hunting season is in full swing. But right now, seasons are open. I mean, there are deer getting shot right now, and I just start getting excited. You start seeing social media posts and stuff. I mean, it is game time.
Antelope are getting shot.
Antelopes. Now, we got an antelope shooter right here.
Yep, we went out. A few of us one of us from the marketing team, Jake, came with us, and then a handful of engineers. We went out to Utah and laid them down. About 48 hours, we had 6 antelopes, and all awesome antelope too. So it was a pretty cool trip. It was one for the books, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that trip in this topic, but fill us in a little bit. So we had 6 antelope down in 2 days' time, from shots ranging from 40 yards to 400, or where were we looking at? And what'd you guys take for pea shooters?
Oh, nothing was that close.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, we dreamed of some nice chip shots. There was an antelope there named Chip Shot, but the crazy thing was nobody ever got him. So, but yeah,
alive and well, huh?
Yeah, he still is. So, I could probably be bribed to drop some pins there in Utah, but. Anyway, yeah, the shots, I would say, I think we did have a 200-yard shot. Otherwise, they were in the 3s out to 4. I think we had one just over 4. So,
And sporty conditions. It was windy.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was windy and big country, wide open. The wind was a blowing, but yeah, antelope were plentiful. So it was a great trip. Everybody had success. You know, you can't ask for much more than that. But yeah, shots were well. Nothing turned into a rodeo.
Which is always important.
Great success.
I love it. And we've talked about it a bunch. Antelope hunting, I mean, I'm always drawn to mule deer. Elk hunting's cool too, and I've done a lot of other hunting, but man, I love antelope hunting. I just love it for a lot of reasons. Mainly, they're not going anywhere. I don't have to beat them out of bed. I mean, I'm an early riser anyway, but I can wake up, have my coffee, have some breakfast, stretch and yawn a little bit, and then get out there, because they're not bedding down in the thick timber, you know, if I don't get out there early enough. And they're usually pretty plentiful. Usually you can find them. Their white butts stand out like a sore thumb. You throw out the binoculars, you go blow a stock, and you find some other ones and try again. And it's that communal camaraderie type of hunting where it's fun, spotting and stalking. It's just great. I just love antelope hunting.
I enjoy it too. The biggest thing for me is kind of just, I don't know if it's perspective or what, but you know, central Nebraska, we have antelope out in western Nebraska, but right here, you don't see them.
Not often.
So,
every once in a while, they'll start creeping in and they get taken out or pushed out.
Yeah, it's just kind of neat to see them and be around them. And I haven't hunted or shot enough antelope in my day, so I'm still at the point where an antelope's an antelope, kind of like a turkey. If I have a turkey come in, most oftentimes that's a turkey I'm trying to leave with. So I treat antelope the same way right now at this point.
I love it.
Kind of just
infectious.
A fresh, a refreshing hunt, I think, is kind of what it was.
It's a good way to get the ball rolling for the season. I've been sitting here with a smile on my face this whole time thinking about hunting. Now, Preston, you've got some hunts coming up as well.
Just I have one hunt, mule deer in eastern Wyoming.
Yeah,
here in October.
My favorite.
Your favorite, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a good mule deer. That would be good.
Yeah,
I've shot one buck mule deer, and he was cool. He was like cool. A 24-inch wide fork horn, which I always said I'm going to shoot the first fork at Hornady.
Yeah.
As a
Didn't
joke
think
to
it was
you.
going to be a 7-year-old. With
It was pretty cool. So, but yeah, it'll be a fun hunt. And then always Nebraska, rifle
we
season.
always got Nebraska rifle season, which could mean a lot of things. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's kind of a drought. And the last couple of years have been pretty tough. But hopefully you guys get some more animals laid down and you take good grip and grin, a good trophy photo, a good whatever you want to call it, post-hunt success. And this was Judd's idea to bring this to a podcast. And I feel like everyone out there in the world of social media, we've all seen some really good trophy photos. We've all seen some really bad post-hunt photos. And we thought, what a better time than right now, right before seasons really start kicking off, to just discuss what we think makes a good post-hunt photo. And there's a lot that goes into it, a lot more than what used to go into it, I think, especially now with social media.
Definitely changed over the years and put a lot more effort into it in recent years.
Well, you guys are talking about effort. I mean, just think about the time and effort that's put into a hunt, a successful hunt. All that, prep work and then working your tail off trying to make it happen. When it does, I think the investment is worthwhile to spend a little extra time thinking about your photo that you're going to take because, that's going to live forever.
It is. And one thing I think about when you brought this topic up to record, I was trying to think of me post-hunt, college, high school, with my first deer, any of my dad, any of my grandpa, any of my uncles, and they don't exist. Barring a few exceptions. It was just something we didn't do, and I never thought anything of it. Now, in hindsight, I wish we would have documented that. There's like some of my grandpa's antlers up on the wall, and it would have been cool to see Grandpa Ono Fred in 1987 with this thing or whatever, right? And
I think you could make an argument that it'd be cooler to have a picture than the horns without Grandpa,
Exactly. And like you talked about, Judd, why not take a little bit of extra time? Because you only get one chance to do this.
Yeah.
So just as well do it right.
Yeah. Yep. That's most definitely.
Now, you've got some detailed notes that we want to go over. I have some thoughts. Preston is no documentation necessary. He's got it all up here between the ears. So I'd like Judd to kind of steer this podcast because you went through it, I don't know, analytically, and you've got a system to it, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's obviously something that you've taken a lot of pride in doing, and it's appreciated. So, and also right before we get started on this is not the way. This is a way of taking a post-hunt photo. So if you do or don't like to do some of the stuff that we recommend, great. If you don't take photos at all, that's great too. We just think you should, and you should do it with some thought into it.
Yeah. Especially, when you have a critter down, you have a limited amount of time to make this happen. So, yeah, I don't know. From my perspective, it's just, I enjoy having the trophy, but I don't know, the photos are right up there with it.
Yep.
So,
Excellent.
As I say that, I did write this down. Trophy. When we're talking about trophy, you're referring to this is a prized possession. No deeper than that. This is the fruits of your labor of your hunt.
Yeah,
that's the
it doesn't
trophy.
have to be measured inches in antler. Yeah. It's anything. And sometimes tags go unnotched, and the trophy photo is sitting at a campfire at 8,000 feet, sipping coffee, glass in a basin. Snap a quick photo of that. That can be, that's a special place that you don't get to go to very often, and you can relive that in those memories through that photo.
Yeah. So then, I guess you mentioned I've taken plenty of photos and have had some opportunities going with company people around and doing trophy photos and whatnot. But I've never wrote this down before, so it was kind of fun to go through the process in my mind and write these thoughts out. So if you guys feel I'm leaving a hole at some point, jump on in and ask a question, throw in some input. First off, though, so I kind of broke this first part into, it could go either way. Sometimes you're hunting solo and it's just you and you're setting up the camera and having to run back with the timer. If you have multiple people, which I'm a person that I'm going to try to make it happen to where I can get somebody there or have somebody with me or call my buddies. It's kind of a social thing anyway. So I'm going to start this with the perspective of you have another person there to help out with photography. And then, we can derail at any point to talk about, well, if you're solo, how do you do that? But so I'm gonna speak to this here at the start as there's a hunter and there's a photographer. Call it, your buddy that's with you. So
Meat packer.
I kind of broke this into, from my perspective, the hunter kind of has a checklist to go through as you're starting to set up photos, and the photographer has a checklist. And then there's some that kind of merge in the middle. But I would say, as the hunter, the very first thing to do is punch your dang tag. Because you're thinking about it, setting up photos, thinking about everything. And, you may go to start taking photos and that tag isn't punched yet. So just be sure you punch your dang tag.
Yeah,
so.
and then all of a sudden you're done taking photos and you're like, oh, we got to get this quartered right now. Let's go. And then you start cutting up an animal that you haven't notched your tag on.
That's a problem. That's a legal issue.
Yep.
Yeah. And, we've all got or heard a lot of stories about different run-ins with different people in wildlife law enforcement. And, you don't want to get hung up in anything like that. Yep. An honest mistake could be a problem.
Yep. So, punch your tag. Once you just start doing things, you're on cloud 9 to begin with. It's easy to let some things slip. So
Sage advice.
After that, just kind of consider, what do you want to include in the photo? Is there something else that helps tell the story or helps, you want a catalog, you want to remember something, your rifle or your bow, do you want that included in the photo? Start thinking about that. I didn't realize it at the time, but now you guys know by my desk, I have the photo board up there. I have a lot of successful hunts that I've been on or been included or family members have been on. And I like looking at them to, just the way things go years down the road. It's what rifle did I take on that hunt? What cartridge did I shoot? And I can look up at that photo and see the rifle there. So I personally like including, the firearm or the bow or, whatever you're hunting with, muzzleloader, shotgun. Mm-hmm. I like including that in the photo. That said, I'd be open to your guys' input on this too. Be sure, it's on safe or bolt is open. I like doing bolt open on the rifle just so it's a clear indicator when people are looking at the photo, it's safe. Mm-hmm. And maybe we have to be a little more cautious of that, but I think it's good practice in general.
I think as a general rule, as we get started on this whole conversation, you have to keep in mind that there are people who might not agree with hunting as a whole that will view that photo. So keep that, not that we have to necessarily cater to them, but you don't need to go out of your way to make the photo look more potentially offensive to somebody. Just simply having clearly safe firearm is certainly not a problem.
Yep. Yeah. And that said, just be sure it's pointed in the right direction. And, perspectives change when you're the hunter behind the critter, to you, yes, the rifle is pointed in a safe direction. Maybe on camera from that perspective, just the way angles are, it may look a little wonky. So just communicate with the person that's taking a photo just to make sure things are looking right. And then, another thing from that point, before you even start taking pictures, do you want to do your field dressing now, right away? Or, do you want to take photos quick and then do it? Either way is probably fine. Again, there's a million ways to skin a cat. Personally, I like doing my photos before field dressing. Looks,
it gets a little less messy that way on your hands. If, say, you forgot some gloves or you don't use gloves.
Hands, clothes, horns,
hands, the
animal.
If it's possible, I like to do my photos as soon as I can and then save the field dressing for Preston's point, till after the fact.
I thought you were going to say, you just say the field dressing for Preston. He handles it.
That's what
field dressed a fair share of other people's animals that were mine, but not Judd's ever.
Yeah. That's kind of my thought as things the hunter can kind of process through just to, make it an easy system. And then the photographer and the hunter can kind of come together and then, check blood. As little blood as possible is ideal. Try to clean it up any way you can. And, it's not just always on the critter. It could be the mouth, the body, could be on the antlers or the horns, could be on the ground. Mm-hmm. And then like Preston said, if you did your field dressing, look at your hands, make sure your hands are clean if you're holding antlers and things.
I saw a little trick years ago. I was just a kid at that point. I was watching a Hunter Specialties deer video, and they had a suggestion And they said if you have your truck nearby, or if you want to carry it around or whatever, you can spray a little bit of windshield cleaner,
Windex type stuff, yeah.
on a paper towel, and just kind
think
of
I've heard
around the the bloody area of the mouth or whatever have you, and that'll clean it up a lot better than just wiping it.
Really? That's interesting. I've definitely done where you've got the entrance or exit hole or whatever. You can get some water out of a water bottle, brush it off, grab a handful of dirt, rub it in there, makes it disappear. Again, just goes a long way to just make it look a little bit more higher end.
Yeah, I think time spent there is time well spent.
Hornady Security Mobilus Safes. Discover the ultimate solution for safeguarding your valuable equipment with Hornady Security Mobilus Safes. Offering an innovative modular design, Mobilus Safes can be easily transported and assembled piece by piece in any room. Featuring a full square lock interior organizing system that maximizes storage space with countless storage configurations. Elevate your security with Mobilus Safes from Hornady Security.
Just continuing on with that, double check the mouth just in general. Some people remove the tongue completely. Some people tuck the tongue. It wasn't until recently I went on a trip with Jason, and the place we were at, the guys like to sew the mouth shut, actually, and it took no time at all. So it might be a trick that I start trying to do too. They just carried, a lighter fishing line and a needle, and just kind of went in the gums and actually tied a knot, sewed the mouth shut.
Wow.
Didn't have to worry about it. Yeah, and it was rock solid sewed shut. I've heard of people using super glue as well. I haven't personally tried it.
I don't think there's enough super glue.
Yeah, yeah. But I've heard of it, so I haven't tried that. But just the main point, just be mindful of the mouth. You don't want the tongue hanging out. It just kind of is a turn off. Just double check that, think that through.
Before we came out here, Neil recommended, he's a big proponent of just removing the tongue completely. And then if, a lung shot, sometimes you'll get a lot of blood coming out of the nose and the mouth. Wipes, toilet paper, whatever you have, you can kind of shove back in that cavity and it'll clog it up a little bit so it's not continuing to drain out.
I can't tell you how many tongues I photoshopped in my time here.
In short time in
the marketing department, yeah. So if you just take care of that right away, you don't have to worry about it in post.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then just continuing on, there's a couple things here that I know I've heard of a lot of people do. Personally, I've not tried them, but some people actually carry or hunt with like taxidermy eyes. They'll pop fake eyes, a glass eye in the animal just to give it that extra pop, give it a little bit of
I've
a
never
sheen.
heard of that.
That is wild.
Well, and sometimes too, a lot of cases where that would really benefit you was, if you were taking photos a day or so after.
Overnight recovery.
Yeah, overnight recovery, or you it was late, you got your deer in the cooler that night, you wanted to do your photos in the daylight in the morning, that type of scenario. It just gives them a fresh look.
Another little quick thing with that, if you don't want to carry taxidermy eyes, you can just squirt a little water in there. That'll give it a little bit, kind of air quote, bring them to life a little bit if they've been laying. But that's a good point.
And this is one I'm interested to see Preston's reaction. Another thing I haven't tried, but have heard.
I better have a reaction.
I have heard of folks oiling the antlers or the horns, like just even what's as simple as a vegetable oil, something to give them a sheen. No, but again, haven't tried it.
I think that's overhandling.
So it could
that sounds
be,
like
but
overhandling to me.
I guess I could see how it would maybe add a little extra pop on the antlers or the horns. But yeah,
Sure.
Again, something I haven't done.
Don't think Preston's going to do it either.
I don't think I'm going to be doing that. But no, that's all right. And there is no wrong way to this. I want to reiterate that. These are just food for thought, something for you to think about to try and take the best picture you can. And we're not saying you have to because it's a trophy shot. Just preserving a memory.
Yeah, which is big. Like I said, I can think of a handful of my old man with some really good deer, but then there's a lot of other deer that no idea.
Yep.
I can't remember a single one that I took a photo with until I was out of college.
I took some when I was growing up a little bit, and maybe we're derailing Judd here a little bit, but
You're not.
I guarantee the first buck I ever shot with the old stick and string, you can see half of my face. And it's in the back of a Ford F-250, and that deer is stiff as could be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say, even in our time, it's gotten just easier and easier and easier to take photos. Now you have a camera. Yeah, you have a camera phone in your pocket, literally at all times. So, even thinking back to when I harvested my first animals, it was a load up the critter in the back of the truck and let's drive home to see mom, and she'll take a picture.
Get the 35 millimeter camera, take it to the grocery store. They'd have it developed. You'd have it in a month.
Yep. Out of film, though. Maybe that was why we never got photos.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, boy, times have changed. So I want to move on here now to like actually staging the critter and thinking through your shots. Do you guys have anything else as far as actual prep on the animal?
A little bit as far as the background. I feel like maybe this is kind of the shared, but as the hunter, and I've only started doing this in recent times, I consciously select what do I want in the background of this photo. Like, okay, where am I? What are my options? What do I want? Certainly, what do I not want? Like that's just a cedar tree. Do I want just a cedar tree, the solid, background? Am I overlooking a hill? Is there a road? Is there a four-wheeler? Is there a truck? Is there cows? I mean, what is in there that I do or don't want to include for everybody to see? And consciously think about what's behind you when you're setting up for the shot. That's the only thing I would add to kind of that hunter's responsibility.
Yeah. Well, I'm transitioning into that exactly right there. I put some thought into your photo location and what's in the background. Is there something cool in the environment that you want to capture or preserve so you can remember it? Is it just a epic landscape, or is there something that just makes you think of that hunt? I would also go to that of where you found the animal. Again, just double check, make sure everything's clear. If you need to, as far as blood goes, move the animal out of that. If there's any type of mess, just get to a cleaner location if you're just going to take the photo right there. But yeah, I usually like to, like Seth said, just show some of the landscape so I can, even just for me personally, not only to share with anybody that sees the photo, just me to kind of just, every time I look at that picture, it just brings up memories. So yeah, I'm the same boat on that. To dive into that even deeper, then once you do choose your location, look at the sun. Where's the sun at? You don't want giant shadows on your face.
Yeah, don't put the sun behind you.
Don't put the sun behind you. Don't point your camera into the sun. There are instances where you can do that if you're using flash or you have a reflector. It takes a little bit more equipment to pull that photo off. But biggest thing, I like to not necessarily face the subject right into the sun, maybe a touch of a quarter. But again, your background may dictate that too a little bit. But really be mindful of the sun. Try to keep the shadows at a minimum as much as you can. That said, you don't want your subject squinting into the sun and not being able to open their eyes. So
yeah, and we could dive into a little bit to just some of the principles of photography if we want to nerd out a little bit. Try, if you can, like obviously these animals are getting shot at different periods in the day, but if you can shoot in the golden hours, do it. I mean, we're talking 30 minutes before sunset, 30 minutes after, 30 minutes before sunrise and 30 minutes after sunset. There's going to be no shadows, nothing harsh. You're just going to get, if you did nothing else but did that, the lighting would improve over a basic photo that you took at noon.
Yeah, that's true. I can attest to that. I took a photo of my old man with his giant mule deer, and I didn't do a darn thing, but it was just came out perfect. The color, the contrast, no shadows. It was just balanced. It just looked great.
Yeah, and if you're doing more than a camera phone, I would say throw this out there as well. Everybody loves a soft background, right? Everybody loves a soft background. But if you're behind that animal a little bit, making it look potentially big in the photo, and your f-stop is set way down low, there's a chance that you or the deer or whatever could be a little bit out of focus compared to the other thing. So while ideally you'd have your f-stop as low as you can get it, sometimes that's not the right move. Bump that f-stop up a little bit and get yourself and the animal in focus.
Right on.
Yeah. And again, continuing on to your point, I'm not a big fisheye lens person or super wide angle just to make your animal, your trophy look bigger. But there are some other things outside of that you can do that just help really show the animal in its entirety. So some things like that are, as the hunter, sit behind the animal. And if you can sit on your butt as low to the ground as you can. Whether that's sitting on the back of your feet or whatever. I like to sit crisscross applesauce a lot of times right behind my critter. And then the new thing on positioning, I do a lot of photos just right over the back of the animal, holding the antlers or the ear. But the new one I kind of like that I started doing is actually being out, not necessarily in front of the animal, but on the front of his nose, not necessarily over the back. And I like to kind of sit with one leg bent and the other one out straight behind the back of the animal. And you're kind of just out front. It gives a nice clean look of the horns or the antler.
Mm-hmm.
You're not obstructing that, or there's not an antler or a horn in your face. I don't know. That's something new that I started doing. I did it on the antelope hunt, and it really turned out nice. So, but that said, do multiple positions, multiple different angles and whatnot. But
I think the general takeaway there is just don't be directly behind it. Get out of its antlers, horns, face. Get away from it. Get to one side or the other. That's the big takeaway.
You want to complement the animal, not just be in there with it.
Yeah. One more thing, I guess, before we continue on, I probably should have mentioned this first. Let's talk about, how do you sit? I'm talking about deer a bunch here, which, deer size, antelope. I mean, this is probably true for elk, just at a different scale. So I guess I'm just going to continue talking as deer. But how do you guys prop your deer up? I like to get him up on his chest, pull the legs out so it kind of helps stabilize a little bit so it's not rolling on you.
And then front legs tucked, right? Yeah. Rear legs spread. That's what I like to do.
I like to imagine I'm putting this deer, in this case, on a surfboard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My lab would lay down, kind of like, with essentially the elbows down and the forearms flat on the ground.
Yeah. And my biggest focus, I'm not so concerned about how the legs are positioned, as long as they look natural. But the biggest thing is they're helping support the animal, because when you're the hunter behind there holding the head, it gets heavy in a hurry. So if you can just worry about one thing and not also having to hold your deer up, that just takes another variable out. So I like to think about the position of the feet to help that. We talked about the hunter, just sit low, make sure there's no obstructions in the antlers, make sure there's a clear shot. With that, then your hand positioning, how to hold the animal, don't get overly handsy. The least amount of hands as possible. Don't over grab on the antlers or the horns. I like to grab around the bases with an opposite hand. I don't want to reach across my body most times. I just want to grab around the base, or sometimes you can get away with grabbing around the ear too.
Yeah.
But then the photographer also just has to provide input to make sure, you're not pulling on the neck or something's wonky. But I like to hide the hand as much as possible. Yeah. And I think that just does wonders too, to not only with the photographer being lower, it just helps the animal stand out more too, with a little more separation, less obstruction.
Yep, I agree. You can find a sweet spot sometimes where all you have to really do is hold the neck to position the face and the angle that you want the horns at or the antlers at. And that's really nice too. Or you can kind of come up under the chin sometimes. But I think more is better, or less is better, excuse me.
Yep.
Less is more in this case.
And then kind of one of the only other notes I have for the hunter before we moved on to just the photographer specific would be, this is my opinion, and everybody can do it different, but smile.
Oh,
this is an awesome experience.
Look at my number one.
Oh, yeah, not smiling.
Jeez.
And I get, some people, that's just kind of the personality. That's what they like to do, which is fine. But to me, it's like, I'm smiling. This is awesome. I've had photos of myself in the past when I first started hunting, and I kind of did the rough and tumble look. And looking back, I'm just like, I'm a smiler. My personality, this is awesome. I want to be happy and smile in my photos. So I don't know. I'm curious.
I think we were all tough when we were younger,
Yeah. Maybe.
But I think as you get older and maybe, dare I say mature or get more wise, you'll look back and be like, dang, I wish I would have smirked or something. You know?
Yeah.
Give a little bit of a happy look.
Yeah, we've all seen those photos, whether that be social media or just somebody, oh, hey, I shot this, buck, check this out. And then they just look like a wet fart on the camera. Like, just be excited. I don't understand. You're excited.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to purposefully stifle it? That's why that was number one on my list was smile.
Yep. Yeah. I'm a big smiler.
I got one more if you're jumping on to just the photographer. I going to go on record saying it right now. We're done with the long arm and stuff. Don't get so far back and put your arm so far out there in an effort to enhance the look, because it doesn't. It's
enhance.
It's painfully transparent, and you look like a goofball.
Yeah,
just don't do that.
I'd put that in the fisheye category too.
Yeah, with the super wide angle.
Just it looks so fake. I mean, well,
you took a wonderful photo of your darling bride with the world's largest prairie dog.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, maybe we'll drop that photo in.
We should plug that in here. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's a little bit exaggerated, but yeah, I'm on that too. The long arm, I like to be right up against
natural.
Them. Yeah, just being natural. I want my arm in a natural position, not overextended. I know it's a trend. And Seth, maybe you can talk to this. Did you take any photos when you were in South Africa? You see, when people get a buffalo or something and they sit clear on the rear end and they take the photo from the head. Is that kind of a trend that they do there?
The first South Africa trip I took, there was one PH that was big into those, and we did not take those. This most recent trip, I can't say enough good things about the professionalism and of the outfit, Crusader Safaris. No, we didn't. At least at this one, no. That might have been a trend at some point or in some areas, but this place, no. They were taking very natural and professional looking photos, in my opinion.
Yeah. Which I'm saying the other way is fine too. If I would ever go over there, I'd probably take that photo too, because it's like I've seen those so much. It's like I gotta
with
have that
traditional safari carry.
Over standing in the background.
Yeah. I did take one of those on the first animal I shot over there, and I told the PH we're not taking any more of those.
Oh yeah,
but I do have one. Yeah.
Hey, it's all personal preference. Yeah, yep. I'm big on that. No fisheye, no super arm, Gumby arm stretched out there. The other thing I would ask now as I move on to the photographer, I mean, is it a camera or is it an iPhone? The iPhones, or I guess whatever
Droids.
Androids, they all take spectacular photos now. Just out of principle, I try to carry a camera with me when I can, but I don't know if much of this, what we're talking about, and even as I get into the photographer side of things here, it doesn't really change. I mean, everything's still true. You hit on, if you can control the f-stop and whatnot, make sure your subject's in focus. A little bit of shallow focus, makes things look nice. But I don't know if there's a huge difference. All phones take great pictures now.
Fantastic. It seems like you could zoom in with this lens or this lens right here, and your quality's not going to really drop. I feel like on phones, you still get that. But as long as you set up from the get-go and don't have to zoom in, you're not going to add any grain.
Yep. I'm on that too.
The HIT Target Impact Indicator. Instant hit confirmation at extended ranges has never been easier. The HIT Target Impact Indicator easily attaches to most target stands and not the steel target itself. The highly sensitive internal accelerometer detects vibration when the target is impacted, activating the red LED lights that flash Morse code for HIT. Where impact confirmation can be difficult, light it up with the HIT Target Impact Indicator from Hornady.
So then moving on to the duties here of the photographer, get down is my top one.
There's a song about it.
Yeah.
There's a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine there is. But yeah, I'm just get down to, at least eye level with your subject. I mean, maybe even lower. It's going to help your animal look really nice.
Regal.
It just gives, I don't want to say the right perspective, but it just gives a perspective.
Good perspective.
Yeah. Otherwise, I see a lot of photos of, just from head perspective standing, looking down, and it's just, yeah, it does. You can kind of see the legs tangled up of the hunter in the background. It's just kind of a different perspective on the animal. I'm a big believer in just get down. Whether you lay on the ground or kneel down, just get lower. And I think that's going to do wonders. Like Preston said, if you just get the light right, doing it in the twilight hours, that's going to improve your photo big time. I would put getting low in that same category. If you do a couple
probably
things,
more important.
Yeah, probably right there. That said, when you get low like that, that may bring up some challenges. There may be some grass or some sticks or some things. Go ahead and bust those down, tear them out, do whatever you got to do to get a clear view through that so you can get your angle right and get a clean photo. Don't be afraid to break
Do
some
some
sticks.
landscaping.
Yep, do some landscaping. There you go.
Yeah, when we go down for Nebraska rifle season, we always have some guests, and we have what we call, photograph hill. Is that what we call it, right? So it's super easy for the cameraman to get low. You don't even have to lay down. You can actually just kind of kneel, and you're already kind of looking up at them, and it makes for a really interesting photo because you got cottonwoods that are, leafless in the background, and the sun's always pretty nice right there. And yeah, a hill actually can be very, very beneficial, but you can go too far the other way. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, this is, and to a little more context, it's not a hill at all. So much
as a 3-foot depression.
So there's a little depression that the photographer can be in, and then there's just a little mound that's just perfect to put the chest of a deer on, and it faces pretty well due south. So whether you're shooting in the sun coming up or the sun going down, you get kind of the same lighting. Go in there before season with a weed eater, knock down all the stuff, and I know we're taking photos right there.
That's cool. I kind of forgot about all that. So that said, the next point, when you're in that position, then you're on photo hill there as the photographer. It's easy to take a bazillion photos nowadays. You're on a flash drive or a SD card or on your phone. Hit that photo button, the shutter button, as much as you can or as much as you care to, because this is your one chance to do that. So take tons of photos and mix up the angles with that. Get different angles. Preston, you probably hear me say this a variety of times, but wides, mids, and tights. Get some wides that show the landscape. Get a mid that just kind of frames up nice on the deer and the hunter. Go in and, if he's got some cool character, take some tights so you can remember that, a hand on the antler or whatnot.
Lifestyle kind of stuff, a little bit more intimate, where you're really tight with just a hand, the antler, maybe some of the background.
Yeah, just spend some time being creative. I like having the variety, and you can always go through and delete. So, yeah, wides, mids, and tights, and be creative.
Here's a topical one that fits into your point. Turn that phone a different way too. Oh, sure.
No, you're good.
Nope.
That was right when we were transitioning.
I don't want to go too far ahead because you mentioned, you got SD cards, flash drives, and then your phone, which my particular phone is it's not a really good iPhone, but it's got 256 gigabytes of storage, right? Well, we're talking about old school nostalgia. Post 35 millimeter, but first digital cameras. My first flash drive was like a 128 megabyte, and it cost like $40. It was asinine.
And you were big time.
Yeah.
So we have definitely come a long way. Take a bunch of shots.
Yep. Yeah. And then moving on to Seth's point here, horizontals and verticals. Think about a little bit of what you're planning to do with the photos. If it's something you just want to print out, have on your desk or have in your home, horizontal seems to be kind of the way to go for that. If you're a social media person, I like to post mine every now and then on social media. Seems like that stuff's leaning more vertical now. So if you're social media minded or want to have the variety, flip horizontals, verticals, do them all. Try to get as much as you can. And then that said, from the photography side of things, use the rule of thirds. That you split your camera frame into thirds, and you like to have your subject on, either the left third or the right third, and just kind of frame it up nice. Make sure the head or a face isn't cut off in the frame, or an antler is missing, or a tine.
It's not my mom's fault.
Yeah.
It was dark. And she had to look through a tiny little viewfinder. So.
Yeah. And she ultimately probably was like, oh,
I think
yeah,
I
that's
got her
great.
out of bed to do it.
Yeah. She's like, okay.
It was
yeah,
like
great.
11 o'clock when we got back at night after
Yeah.
tracking this thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, use just the photography basic terms of rule of thirds. Kind of get your subject on a third. Make sure there's an even frame, around them. Just give everything some space.
Yeah. And a lot of phones have them in the camera
Oh, yeah.
automatically. And some people may wonder what that is. If you see your viewfinders split into 9 chunks, those are your rule of thirds bars, essentially. Those are your thirds bars. So pick one of those intersections, make your subject there, and make sure everything else kind of fits in.
Yep. And then, once you got that down and you're ready to take a photo, check your focus. Make sure your focus is set like on our cameras, and I've done it multiple times where I'll be using a camera like this that's shooting video, and then I'll switch it over to shoot photos. And when I was last shooting video, I was using manual focus, and then I'm clicking the screen and taking the shutter button later to take photos. And my manual focus is on, so the subject's not in focus. So just double check your focus. That's maybe potentially more for the camera side of things, but when you're on your iPhone and you take a photo, review that sucker. Make sure everything looks good and is looking right. Don't be afraid to review, and don't be afraid to make adjustments from there. So.
Yeah, and you don't have to just pull up the camera and snap the photo. You can touch the screen. I mean, obviously this is very basic stuff, but if you don't know it, you don't know it. Touch the screen and it will focus a square on what you want it to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Play with those iPhone modes, those Droid modes. All kinds of cool stuff in there. Nighttime mode and cinematic video and all kinds of stuff.
And honestly, the editing after the photo on phones these days is pretty great.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely are. So, Seth, you mentioned nighttime. That's another note I have on here is, late evening success. Whether it's a flashlight that you have, or if you actually have, a little square block light or something to use to light up. I've honestly had great success with headlights. If you still want to get that photo done in the evening, bring your truck around if you can, and shine some headlights on your critter and take some photos. You just have to make some more adjustments lighting wise on your camera, but make sure you are lighting your subject up. Some may use a flash even in the daylight just to help remove shadows. So I don't know. I honestly personally a good portion of the time hunt with this light in general. Not only for the photo side of things, it's just a good broad solid block light for blood trailing too. So this light is almost in my pack 98% of the time. So I like taking it even for that. And then obviously setting up the photo, you got it. So it's always good with that. Flash and reflectors, we kind of touched on that a little bit. The biggest takeaway of all of this is that you can take a bazillion photos nowadays and have easily accessed on your phone. So take lots of photos. You'll only have this time right now to do so. You can't go back and do it. So spend the time now and take a lot of photos.
Well done, Judd.
One thing maybe I'm just daydreaming or we didn't bring it up, but as the photographer, or just know that that's in your game plan, is when you're holding the critter and you're snapping a whole bunch of photos, make sure that head, you rotate that just all different directions.
Yeah.
There might be one angle that really, really shows off a cool sticker point, or as you Westerners say, a cheater. Up in the Midwest, we could call it a kicker. But just show you'll find the right angle that way if you just get all the angles.
Yep.
Go like this.
I had a point in here, which was, I don't know nothing about no Androids, but on the iPhone, you can have a live photo. Turn your live on when you take those photos. You can go in and kind of adjust. And so sometimes you're struggling to hold the head exactly where you want it, and you take the photo. Well, you can go in and find where that movement really lines up, and that angle is really good.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I haven't thought of that.
I learned that taking pictures of my wife and my kids, because the kids they ain't gonna
don't sit
cooperate.
still.
No. But if you take it in live, you can usually scroll around in there and find one with both their eyes open.
Nice.
Yep, Preston, you nailed it. That's one that I glossed over here. But yeah, move the head around, move your position too. Do a variety of things. I enjoy doing that. Before we talk about if you're solo doing this, is there anything else to add here to this subject?
Just got a little bit of, I don't know what's the word. You mentioned solo pictures, and I just nothing feels comfortable right now because it's pretty difficult to do.
Oh yeah, I've done it once. The photos turned out horrible.
Yeah. Well, moving on to that, I would say I've ran with the camera too, and just take a bunch of practice shots of my animal laying there, make sure the lighting's right, make sure focus is good, and then I'll set it up and hit the timer and run in and do it. The other thing this camera, and a lot of them let you do, is you can actually download the app and run them from your phone too. So you can kind of set up, have your phone down hidden by your leg somewhere, and actually press the shutter button on your phone to take the picture. With an iPhone, I've done that as well, where I use the timer, run back, and hold them up. But also, and you guys weigh in on quality, it may be slightly less, but still pretty dang good. I've waterfowl hunting, I just shoot a video and slide through and pick the best screenshot that I want.
That was one of my points was, one, take the video for that reason. Two, talking iPhones and Androids or whatever, sometimes it's really cool to just take a walk around, when you kill cheater buck that's got 3 cheaters on every friggin' antler, and it's just cool to do a walk around of that kind of stuff. That's a great idea with the video. That
is good too. Yeah, not only just to take a little video and get a screenshot in there as your photo, just take some little snippets. Grab your animal and just get some unique shots. Get a pano of the environment you're in. Yeah. That stuff I probably need to start getting better at, is doing that. That's a really good idea.
I would say the purist in me wants to say, obviously you're going to lose a little bit of quality depending on what you're doing with the photo. Probably doesn't make much of a difference, right? If you're going to do the video, make sure you're shooting in the highest quality you can. That way your screenshot
into 4K
is as high of quality as you can get.
Yeah. That was my workaround for being solo. It does make things a lot more tricky, and even if the video does lack quality slightly over the actual photo,
at least you got a shot.
Yeah, you can set up and have a shot rather than having 20 where, something's weird and wonky. You can just slide through and it feels pretty awkward doing it. I mean, it's you in this piece of plastic box looking at you over here, and you grab your critter and big old smile,
10,
like
9,
and then
8.
take a break, and then you go through and watch that later to pick out your screen grab. Yeah, it's a little awkward, but hey, just do it, and it's gonna pay dividends down the road that you have that with you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I did on a mule deer hunt, so on this mule deer hunt, solo, successful, 3 miles in or something, I had a tripod that I shot and glassed off of. I took my iPhone, set it on the tripod, propped up, and then I flipped the camera so I could see the countdown. And I do think I lost some considerable photo quality just by using that one forward-facing camera. I have
that photo in my photos. You did,
yeah. But I was able to see what I was doing, and it was, I will definitely be using the video trick moving forward.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. Like if you just have your phone, we've seen it. You carry a rifle and you wear your blaze orange and you go hunting. Like you don't have a tripod, you don't have a pack. You might have to move that animal to get where you have an open limb or limbs you can set. But if you have the pack, that's an easy one too. The tripod, obviously, they got those little 1/4-20 clamping, phone things. Those are cheap. You can throw that in the pack.
Yeah, they don't weigh nothing.
Smart move.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say just in general, take a lot of photos, take variety, get creative, spend some time. Going to pay dividends in the long run for you to have that photo.
You won't regret it. You really won't.
Yeah, and there's some things that are nostalgic. I used to hate, and I've done it plenty of times, hate on the back of the truck, photo, because to me it kind of seems a little bit lazy. But as I look back, it's like, well, maybe if I ever got a deer, or David Weld from college, I took him on his first deer hunt. If we ever get a deer or go hunting again, if you're listening to this, Dave, how are you? It'd be so cool to have a back of the truck photo to match up, and one of our good buddies, or Judd's good buddies, takes a photo every year with his dad and a deer in the back of the truck.
Yeah. That's
every year.
Cool. Pretty cool.
That is a neat little piece, and I've got a public land buck that you and I went out, nice big whitetail, and yeah, we took some really good photos. I'm still impressed with that photo. It was awesome.
I was with an old Nikon point and shoot.
Really?
But I got home to my young son at the time. At the time, we lived in town.
Yeah.
And it was a 5-hour drive to get there. So, yeah, we took a photo of Brock wrapped up in a blanket sitting on my lap in the back of the truck. And sometimes those back of the truck photos are, I don't know, kind of cool.
Yeah. I think after having this conversation and actually thinking about it, I'd have to recreate that at some point in my life too. With Courtney and I have a family or something. Because, yeah, my first buck was my dad. I wasn't even old enough to drive. My dad dropped me off. Hey, I'm going to go sit in this draw this morning. Come pick me up at 10 o'clock or whatever it was. And had success, got my first buck. And, yeah, we didn't have a camera or anything. So load that thing in the back of the truck and head home to see Mom. And you can see our basketball hoop in our driveway right there.
Oh, that's pretty
proud
cool.
in the back of the truck. Yeah, the nostalgia thing is pretty cool. And that goes for anything. Everybody's got their own style. The one that just popped in my head right now, Jason Hornady, he's big on the selfie. Like if he's out with his kids hunting, they like to do a selfie shot, which everybody's got their own thing. And that's kind of a cool thing that he collects now is the selfie shots with whoever he's hunting with, mainly his kids. He likes to kind of save that moment through a selfie.
Yep, that is pretty cool.
That does remind me. We although no one would probably listen, we need to tell the story of that first Western public land hunt.
Yeah, it was a great hunt. And I have want to share this as well, and I've got a couple more things before we wrap this up. But one of them, which is 2 years ago, I took my old man on a mule deer hunt, which we'd done 6 times before that, 6 years in a row, and we killed slammer public land mule deer bucks in Nebraska. I mean, Dad shot a real trophy. I mean, probably the biggest deer I've ever saw on the hoof, body white. I mean, I've never seen a deer that fat. It was just incredible. And then I shot what scored out to be a buck of a lifetime, right? And the way that whole thing went down with the deer that I shot in the AM, I have 3 photos total, none of which are worth anything. It's in hindsight, it pains me that I was successful on that hunt, shared it with my dad, had coffee on the out in the sandhills and watched the sunrise, and then shot this giant buck and didn't really document it that well. It's pretty unfortunate. So don't have those feelings like I do. Take your time and do it while you're out there, because you can't go back and do it. And I certainly would if I could.
Yep. And if you guys want to hear that story on the podcast, we can make it happen.
We can
drop
do
it in the comments. Give this video a like, and it could be done.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit of a rodeo.
It was.
And not on your guys' part, but
no.
It was a rodeo.
Yeah, we did right by what we could, and the way that my dad's deer turned out, that was absolutely textbook. That's exactly what that should have been.
The 22 Advanced Rifle Cartridge easily outperforms all other 22 caliber cartridges in its class, producing 22 250 performance in an AR-15 platform. The 22 ARC is engineered to take full advantage of the most aerodynamic 22 caliber bullets. This means tighter groups, increased accuracy, and an exceptional shooting experience. 22 Advanced Rifle Cartridge from Hornady.
2 more things. These ones are a little bit more bugaboos, in my opinion, in regard to trophy photos after the hunt. Number 1 is over-editing. Leave that to lifestyle photos of, somebody's, new outfit or something. But with the black and white and the sepia tones and the blurry background where you go in and put stars in and stuff, just, in my opinion, the over-editing detracts from the photo significantly.
Yep.
In my opinion, mine alone.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. Natural look to an extent seems to be
I would
nice
say
to me.
too, like if you're going to edit, if you think you need to edit the photo, depending on what program you use, they have some auto buttons.
Yeah.
Just click auto.
I'm not saying don't go in there and edit, and certainly I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. And certainly some edits are nice where you can bring up some contrast and enhance some colors here and there, and just generally make it a more pleasant or warm looking photograph. But when you're adding a bunch of stuff to it, it just, I don't know. It seems like when Photoshop was first available in 2006 or whatever, and people were just adding a whole bunch of stuff. When it starts to look like that,
I guess I didn't even understand because I've never done it before.
Yeah.
But how would you even add anything?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I'll show you some examples. Yeah. My last thing has nothing to do with the actual photo per se, but I feel like this joke has ran its course. And that's the teaser photos.
Oh,
I don't need to see the base of a horn or a bloody hoof, and then you left me on delivered for 14 hours.
An inch of antler, like,
yeah,
no friggin' way.
No.
And I feel like
I'm looking
somebody
at you, Ryan
feels
Damon.
like they're getting called out a little bit, maybe sitting to the left of me.
I'm not going to stop doing it.
You can't now.
Yeah. And that's just more of a joking,
that's an
probing of, I've done it too. I get it. It's run its course. Show us where's the beef?
Yeah.
I'm with that, but yeah, it's almost kind of became a thing with our group, you know, because we know it kind of ruffles some feathers, so I feel like it gets done more. Yeah. And I mean,
mainly my feathers. Yeah.
In the moment, I'm not thinking right anyway, so I'm sending. Who knows what I'm going to send you guys?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I've been a perpetrator of out in no man's land, like that buck I killed, that mule deer where I took the photo off my tripod. There's no service out there. You get a little bit of service. I send out a text and a photo, but only the text comes through.
Yeah.
and then you're wondering what the heck. Yeah, I remember on that specific hunt, my wife, when I finally did get service, I had like 14 messages. Are you okay? Did you get one? What is that text supposed to mean? Not a lot of context without the photo.
Nowadays, it's a lot easier to send them together. You're not going to get one without the other.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think what we're all really trying to say is, Judd, you've really hit on it. You get one chance to do this and to do it right, and a good photograph can last a lifetime. You're trying to be respectful of the game. You're trying to be, make it look as good as you possibly can. You don't need to purposefully be rubbing people's nose in the blood and the gore and the tongue hanging out and the death, but ultimately trying to lock down this memory forever for you and your kids and your kids' kids and for yourself. So I think that's really the big takeaway here, and you can't get it back. So you just got to do it right.
I don't think there's anything else that can be said after that.
I'm just ready to get out and practice what we're preaching here. So
that's what
hopefully
I'm saying.
I get the
we'll
opportunity.
Have to go first, though. That'd be good.
Yeah. Well, if you guys listening would like to hear a post-season recap to go over some hunts and see some of these trophy photos over the next coming months, let us know. We've got all kind of tags around the office. You know, Preston's got that mule deer hunt coming up. Judd, you're officially a land baron now. You got a little spot, little slice of heaven with some deer coming through, and then a lot of other tags between antelope, deer, elk, all the way out in here till December. So it's going to be an enjoyable next couple months, and I'm looking forward to seeing your success along with everybody else.
Likewise.
Yep, I'm excited to get after it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, guys.
You bet.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode about taking that perfect post-hunt photo. We want you to be able to look back on that photo with good feelings and remember a successful hunt. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.